Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
And I'm Nick Bakai, and I'm living the dream.
Okay. This is Screenplay Movies, a podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news. And Derek gives himself interesting nicknames yet again.
You
How
know,
are you
if
guys
you are
doing?
a fan of ESPN in like the early 2000s, you might have an idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're not. We're not at all. So I have no idea what you're talking about.
There was an announcer on ESPN, and he used to introduce himself in that way. His name was Nick Bakai. So,
Good, good. About 0.2% of our audience will enjoy that sly reference.
well, if it's any consolation, he was not an announcer for very long. So,
Wow, that's even better. It's not like it's somebody that ran for 40 years.
it's an obscure reference, and maybe no one will get it but me, and that's okay.
That's interesting. I'm glad that we went down this route to start this episode. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Derek?
I'm okay.
Yeah, I feel you.
I'm okay.
I'm okay as well. So we have a lot to talk about today. We are continuing the Conjuring universe with the first spin-off. We've done the first two episodes, or the first two movies, should I say, Conjuring and Conjuring 2. Both gave them both high marks. So will the first spin-off to the Conjuring series get high marks as well? Stay tuned to find out. You will know shortly. But in the meantime, guys, I've got a little bit of horror news. Not a lot, but what I have is interesting. First, let's start with this. You know that Dexter show that we thought we is kind of a pointless endeavor, correct? The Exorcist or the Dexter prequel show.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's got some new casting. That's pretty cool people. I still don't know if this is a necessary show, but just added this week is Patrick Dempsey. He is playing Aaron Spencer, captain of the Miami Metro Homicide.
What?
And then also playing CSI chief Tanya Martin is Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Whoa.
All right, I'm in.
I knew Derek would be in just with that, which is something. What do you guys think of this?
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, it definitely sounds more promising.
I mean, it's pretty cool.
I mean, unless they have Dexter like killing people, I just feel like they should have just made a new series. Like it's not in the vein of I don't know I don't know how they're going to tie.
They couldn't continue the series.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like, unless he's
They could have rebooted the series.
huh?
They could have rebooted the series.
Yeah. I watched the first season or two. It was a really good show. I just lost track of it.
I watched Dexter up until the end, and the first 5 seasons of Dexter are pretty good TV, especially up to season 5, and then it just gets wonky and wild, and the ending is not the best. And then they tried to fix that with this new one, which I also felt like wasn't the best. So, you're going to squeeze it for all they got, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I guess you got to do what you got to do. But the cast sounds stacked and good because we have those two actors. We already know Christian Slater is playing Henry, so it's like we got a stacked bit going on here. This is kind of cool, guys. Interesting. We've got CBS is working on a Van Helsing television series. Jonathan Lee is writing it, and it is believed to have landed at CBS. The plot is it's a contemporary take on the Monster Hunter. The Monster Hunter, Dr. Abraham Van Helsing, uses his uniquely inquisitive mind working alongside his ex, relentless FBI special agent Mina Harker, to solve New York City's most harrowing cases.
So what you're saying is it's Sherlock Holmes, but with supernatural creatures.
That's what all these are, right? I think it's pretty much Grimm with
Yeah.
with Van Helsing, or it's pick a show. It's Castle with Van Helsing. It's Moonlighting with Van Helsing. Yeah, it's that. It's what was that Headless Horseman show?
Sleepy
Sleepy
Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow. It's that one, right? It's all of those. They're all kind of this interchangeable, but yeah. But if it's casted well, it might work, right?
Man, I'm getting just flooded with nostalgia right now of growing up with network television and waiting each year for your series to come back on and new episodes, and Buffy comes to mind.
Yeah.
Those,
Yeah.
it's like the nostalgia is really right now. Anyway.
Yeah, I love a supernatural show. So.
Oh, I know, man, and the fact that you had to wait for it and you had to wait episodes, kind of miss that. I also like to binge watch it, although I don't get to do that very often. But
yeah,
a little bit of anticipation never hurt anybody.
Yeah, it's
except if you're waiting on a life-saving treatment.
I
wasn't great.
Yeah, I'm with you with the binge watching. Like sometimes it is good. Sometimes it's nice to be able to set and binge, but I do like episodic TV too, right? Like the anticipation of waiting till next week to see what happens next, or
yeah.
I mean that's how we were conditioned, and it's kind of fun because you're like, ooh, I'll definitely be tuning in next week, which you do with binging too. It makes you go into the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
But then you kind of just consume it all at once, and it kind of gets lost in there.
Yeah.
I feel like if you can, stretch it out, right, and let it do its thing, and you watch it, weekly, you have time to digest each episode, right? Like you're like, oh, okay, yeah. And you think about it, and you think about the story, and then you go to the next one, you're like, oh, they went that way. I thought they were going to go this way, or what have you. The only exception to that for me is sitcoms, because they're kind of in a stagnant formation. They're joke factories, and you have characters you love and stuff like that. But it's not an episode. It's not a serialized television, right?
Right.
Like Burn Notice. I wanted there to be, weekly episodes because it's, each episode's contained, but then you get a little bit more of the story at the end of each one.
Yeah. A fun one was American Horror Story. When it came out, I watched it every week, and it was like, oh my gosh, like the twists and everything that would happen in each episode. You're like just on the edge of your seat waiting for the next one.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah. So this Van Helsing one, do you guys think that? So I'm assuming the tone is going to be like a Moonlighting or like a Sherlock or Castle. I'm thinking it's going to be kind of that fun, horror twinged, just that fun kind of dynamic procedural with a horror twist. So I think that's the way I think it should lean. Huh? I said I think that's the way it should lean into the camp.
I would have made it in the vein. This is going to be so silly, but I think it would be also really cool. I would have made it in the vein of like a Highlander, where he's
like the series.
Yeah, and like he's old, but he looks young. You know what I mean? Like he is an immortal. But the flashbacks, because like the Van Helsing, whenever you think about that, you think not necessarily modern times. It would be really cool to like intermix some flashbacks to. Anyway, now we're just off the rails, guys.
Yeah, well, I think that this takes place in
Is it a period piece?
No, it takes place. It takes place during the modern era, so it's a contemporary piece. So I don't think that he's like an old. So from what we've read, it doesn't sound like he is from the past and has lived this.
No, I wouldn't expect that to be the case.
Yeah, it seems like he is like if his ex-girlfriend is FBI special agent. Sounds to me like he's more Constantine than anything. Like he has
Ooh,
these.
that would.
That was an interesting show. I wish that show would have picked up. I liked the concept of. I mean, I liked having a Constantine TV show. That was cool. All right, next. Um. So, you remember we talked about a Valentine's Day slasher movie, Heart Eyes. You guys remember this?
Nope.
Well,
Kind
we
of
talked.
vaguely.
Yeah, it's a slasher movie rom com. Josh Rubin is directing it. It has Mason Gooding and Olivia Holt are the stars, and it's when the Hard Eyes Killer strikes Seattle. A pair of coworkers pulling overtime on Valentine's Day are mistaken for a couple by the elusive couple hunting killer. Now they must spend the most romantic night of the year running for their lives. Sounds like a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
And it's from the filmmakers behind Freaky and Happy Death Day. So, it's going to be fun. But news this morning was that Devon Sawa and Jordana Brewster are also joining this project.
Whoa.
Yeah. What do you guys feel about this project and about that casting news?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you
Sounds good.
Yeah, I like both of those actors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, this is the big news, guys. This is the big one. So last week it was announced that, actually earlier this week, on Monday, I think, the Hollywood Walk of Fame class of 2025 was announced, and we have some genre fellows in there. Bill Duke is going to be getting his Hollywood Walk of Fame, who you know from Predator and Commando. You know who Bill Duke is, right, Derek? And so he's
Yep.
one. You know him from Predator, Lydia. And we have a couple of other folks, but as far as we're concerned, we have in the motion picture category, Emilio Estevez is getting his, Colin Farrell, Jane Fonda, Nia Long, Lisa Liu, Glenn Turman, and Tony Vaz. But also Robert Englund is getting his star on the Walk of Fame.
Wow.
And
Yep.
my first thought
And-
is he's not done it already. Like,
Right?
Yeah, right? I mean, isn't that crazy that he doesn't have one yet?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Also
What?
getting his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is the master himself, John Carpenter.
Again.
What?
how is that just happening?
Right?
Yeah. So we're fine. They're going to be immortalized in front of the Chinese theater on the Walk of Fame, same one that houses Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff.
Wow.
So we're going to be able to walk over, put our hands on John Carpenter and Robert Englund. How great is that?
Amazing.
And how overdue is that?
Very overdue.
Like, come on, man.
It's
Especially
kind of
John-
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially
even like
John
Jane
Carpenter.
Fonda. Like,
Yeah.
even Jane Fonda, I feel like, is pretty overdue, honestly, when you have some people that are younger, like Colin Farrell, and,
Yeah.
like, I could kind of see, like, that happening around now, maybe, but, yeah, wow.
Yeah. It's just kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that's the way that we finally are going to be able to see these guys have their moment. I wonder who's going to present them. John Carpenter. I don't know. Jamie Lee Curtis. Kurt Russell.
Nice. Yeah, that would be really
his
cool.
wife, Sandy King. Who knows? But I think it would be great to. And then Robert Englund. I mean, his, it'd be great if Heather Langenkamp has to be there, right? Because Wes isn't there. Because 100% Wes would be there.
Yeah.
So, awesome stuff. And that wraps up the horror news for this week, guys. So, let's get into this. Annabelle. Picture it. 2014. And we have just heard. When did The Conjuring 2 come out? Conjuring 2 came out in 2016. So The Conjuring 2 had not even hit yet. So we only had the first Conjuring movie. And Annabelle was a huge bit of that movie, which is so funny because in The Conjuring, Annabelle is literally only in a handful of scenes. It does nothing, really. Right? I mean, she's in the opening, and we get the little story about the creepiness, right? And then about the nurses saying that whole story. And then we also get the scene in the house with the daughter and whatnot. But she's just a creepy looking doll because of course they designed a whole new doll for Annabelle. I mean, it looks nothing. I mean, as we know, Lydia,
yes,
Annabelle is a Raggedy Ann doll. That's what she is in the Warrens Museum.
And I know you guys can't see probably my full screen, but if you extend my screen, you might see.
Oh, she's right there. You can see her.
Okay.
You can see her. She's just chilling right there.
Did you see
her? And
as
Derek? You know,
I didn't until just now.
Yeah. So
I got the case back here.
I see the case. Yeah. So what's interesting is, I guess they just decided Raggedy Ann. They didn't either want to get the rights, or Raggedy Ann just isn't scary.
Right. Yeah.
Which kind of isn't, but also kind of is because it's a dead-eyed weird doll.
And I know we'll get into it. I'll wait. I'll just wait. Keep going. I'll wait.
But for the purposes of the original Conjuring, they wanted a doll that looked interesting and scary, right? So we got the design of Annabelle.
Yes.
And it was hugely popular, like almost instantaneously an iconic horror movie character. There's even talks there like, well, let's do Chucky versus Annabelle. It's like, but Annabelle's not a possessed doll.
She's
not like that. Chucky at all.
No, that's one of the best things about this movie is it doesn't follow that trope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not best things, but it's an interesting aspect that it's a movie.
We'll talk about best things about this movie in time.
I think Chucky would be pretty scared of Annabelle.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think Chucky would just throw the doll out because the doll does nothing. So it's like
he is forever. First.
Is really what I call it, an anchor.
Yeah, and he is forever. So super huge, super popular, extremely popular character Annabelle was. So that was the first of these spin-offs before The Conjuring 2 came out. They're like, let's make a spin-off of Annabelle. And in 2014, we got this movie. Do you guys remember seeing this? Did you guys see this when it came out?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so tell us about it.
Go ahead.
I actually, this one was kind of foggy for me. I mean, I had just actually watched this, pretty recently. But, as far as, I don't know, it was probably... I can't remember when I last watched this. It wasn't very long ago because my account said, watch again, So it was a couple months ago probably that I watched this one. And I didn't really remember very much of it. So that was kind of a first watch. So, but I do remember it coming out and I must not have loved it because I didn't, I didn't remember it very well.
It didn't resonate? Derek.
Yeah, it didn't scare me.
Yeah. Derek, did you go see this in a theater?
I know I didn't see it in a theater. I have seen this movie one time, I'm pretty sure. But it was not in a theater. Maybe I rented it, or maybe it was on like HBO Max, and I watched it or something like that. But this is my second watch. I did not see it in theaters.
Okay,
I'm
I've
married,
seen this.
so I don't get to see horror movies in theaters.
I've seen this a couple times. I actually went to the theaters and saw this. This was one of the first horror movies that Sarah and I went and saw in theaters. We just started dating when this thing came out. Let's see. This came out in obviously 2024, but September. So we'd been dating for several months by this point. And this movie was coming out. I was, obviously a big fan of the original Conjuring, and dragged Sarah to the theater to see it. She, of course, was scared of this whole deal, and I remember us sitting there watching it, and I remember her being like terrified of certain scenes, and I remember just being like,
Yeah.
okay, because that's what we're going to get into. The structure of this movie is not very good. That's how I'll put it. It's not very good. Those scenes, the scary scenes, I remember. They're sprinkled throughout, but there's only really 2 set pieces in the movie that are like horror set pieces. The rest of it are just little noises off camera or something like that. Mostly that's what it is, noises off camera.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, huh, what is that? I wonder what that noise was. Let's go invest. Oh, there's nothing there. Okay. Back to my normal life for a while until something else happens.
Yeah, let me just keep sewing on this incredibly loud machine.
Keep on keeping on with the sewing. So, what do you guys think of? First of all, let's start with the backstory of Annabelle that they dreamed up for this, because obviously the Warrens didn't have a real backstory for her, apparently, because they just had to make this one up a whole cloth. And what is hilarious is they almost ignore it when it comes to Annabelle origins. They're kind of like, it kind of sucks. We'll kind of tie it in a little bit, but I'm Mike Flanagan, and I think this is balls, and I can do better. But what do you guys think of Annabelle's backstory?
I don't hate it. I think it's pretty. I think honestly, it's the scariest part of the movie when the intruders.
I think the attack is actually is pretty good. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that is the scariest part of the movie.
Yeah.
But what do you think of the backstory itself, Derek?
Well, yeah.
It's interesting, to say the least. So that the neighbor's daughter essentially ran off with a cult.
Yep.
And then she and her boyfriend or whatever, she and another cult member attack her family and kill them. Meanwhile, they leave their house completely open, so somebody could obviously go in there.
Yeah, and they actually touch on that early. Yep.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, you can't do that," because the guy left the door unlocked, and then she goes and leaves the door open. So
yeah,
on both of them. But yeah, I do think it's. Let me tell you what there is. This is what I was gonna say, and now that we're into the movie, I can say this. There is no part of Annabelle, whether she is a brand new doll or dirty and looks like she's killed a couple people, nothing about that doll says, keep me in a room because I am adorable and please look at me and play with me. Nothing about it.
I agree. I think that they said that she's supposed to be a collectible of some sort, because they only made X amount of them or what have you. But you're absolutely right, because the doll, when they first get it, is not possessed or anything. It's just a regular doll. And then the possession comes after the death, but after the attack. But what's funny is, you're right. Who would fucking be like, you know what my wife would like is the most fucking horrifying doll you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
And I know it works in terms of it looks cool on film and scary, but you're right, because you're like, I won't fucking want that thing near me.
No,
Get out of here. out of here. What were you talking about? Now I would, because it's, tied to an iconic horror franchise. But I just,
Yes.
as I'm saying, as like, Sarah would not want that doll.
No.
Yeah, no.
And
It
but
cracks me up at the beginning when the girl from the first movie is explaining how they got it, and she was like, "It was a gift from my mom." I'm like, "Your mom hates you."
yes, which is so funny. It's so funny because but here there's some kernel of truth here, because my mom used to have some of those porcelain dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Not like that, because that one's like at another level. But she used to have some of those porcelain dolls, and they were fucking horrifying. Even just the regular ones. I remember she had some of them in the living room for a while. Then they all moved to, basically we had this. So this is 100% a '90s kid thing, but we had a computer room. Do you guys remember computer rooms?
Yes.
Oh yeah, back when they were big stationary
Yeah.
things.
You had a room where you used to keep your computer. Yes.
That's if you were fortunate enough to have one.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have one.
We had one. Yeah, we had one, and we had a room. There was like a little office room off to the side of the dining room. That was the computer room. And after she moved him out of the living room, they just fucking creeped out in the computer room. I remember being in there late at night, like on LimeWire or some shit. You know what I mean? Or on chat, Yahoo Chat, AIM. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. And I'm just in there.
Amy?
Homework?
You weren't watching anything or downloading anything, because that shit went so slow.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I might have spent
it's gonna take all night.
Listen, I might have spent 2 hours downloading a Denise Richards picture. That's probably happened at one point as well. But just a picture of her. Beautiful. But I remember being in there and looking around. There's fucking I'm like, bleh, creepy dolls just over my shoulder. I'm like, why does she have these? But you're right on that part, Derek. But what's funny is, so we're introduced to our couple, and they're okay characters, right? We get it's set in the 60s. We get kind of a cool 60s vibe going on. I don't hate that. I don't necessarily think it's the colored. Like, I don't love the cinematography. It's fine. But when we get our first scare, because, they slow burn us, we are introduced to the doll, then we're introduced to the family, then we're introduced to the family next door from church, we're introduced to the father, the priest. And then, we also hear them talking about the Manson murders, which was occurring at that time. Sharon Tate's murder had just happened. So they're talking about the Manson murders. And then in the middle of this, after they go through all this, they hear the noise they hear something from the neighbors. There's actually a really great shot where she wakes up and we see the flash of the attack at the neighbor's house. Is a pretty cool shot, probably the best shot in the movie, best scare. And then, she gets attacked at the house. What do you guys think of the house attack? I think it's, like you said, Lydia, it's probably the scariest part of the movie.
Yeah, it's intense. Like when the husband goes into the house and she kind of like walks out and he jumps out, I think is such like an effective jump scare, because he's not actually a scary thing. He just is panicking, and he's covered in blood. He's like, go call the police, get an ambulance here. And she goes back into the house and you're like, oh no, this isn't good.
Yeah, we see the little clips of her, and she, we see her like just walking around in the background, and so we're kind of building it, oh man. And then when she sees her and she's holding the doll and she's coming up to her, it's really effective when the dude steps out from behind her. Mm-hmm. That's a good bit. Even in theaters, I remember I was like, "Oh, that's a pretty good bit." And we get the attack, and I think that whole scene is pretty intense and good. And I think, if I'm going to show my hand a little bit, I think the movie peaks at that point, because it never reaches that high again, in my opinion. Like that was like the scene, and then we spend the next like hour and 15 minutes kind of just riding the wave, putting out the vibes, I guess.
Yeah, that's actually one thing I specifically remember was like after this whole like attack scene, and then I just remember the basement scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and just
that's
being
the
like,
big. That's the next big set piece. Yeah.
yeah,
So
like
what's
didn't scare me as much.
so what's interesting? Like so her backstory. So here's where it's confusing. Here's where it's confusing. So the doll's name is Annabelle because the demon is attached to, and I guess the demon makes up the story of Annabelle to the next people, but the real girl's name is Annabelle. But Annabelle's spirit is not haunting the doll. The demon is haunting the doll. So you're like, okay. You could have just made it a lot cleaner if you just had Annabelle haunting the doll.
Right.
You wouldn't have had to do two parts removed, I don't feel like.
But well, maybe it's because the demon like owns Annabelle's soul because she
maybe
sacrificed.
I don't know. They do like the whole cult thing is okay, but it feels lazy, I guess, derivative. Like it's like, well, clearly they're in a cult. That's what happened, and this cult is bringing about just summoning this one demon. Why? We don't know. It's just that's the thing. And the scene with the police officer in her is not very good. I do not like that scene. It's like stilted and weird. And when she's like, when he's giving her the file, and he's like, well, they call themselves. I don't remember what was the name of the cult. Do you guys remember?
The Children of the Ram or something like that.
That's it. Yeah. And that's it. When they said that, I was like, what? They worship trucks.
They worship farm animals.
They're a cult of Dodge enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something. So that aspect is
speaking of stilted and weird, I think this movie came out and it was so like unrememberable, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then after watching what's the one that she's in that we love?
Conjuring 2?
No, with Gabriel.
Oh, yeah. Fucking Malevolent.
Malignant.
Yeah, Malignant. That's it. Yeah.
Malignant. Okay, so after I watched that, it made this movie way better for me because I really liked her in that movie so much that.
Well, she's like, great. I think the characters. She's
great.
Yeah, I don't think the characters are necessarily. Well, I don't think our two leads are bad because, guys, we'll talk about the other scares in a minute. But when we're introduced to our third character, Evelyn. Her character is such a the way they wrote her is so bizarre, right? The way they have her introduced into the movie, and she's just like, it's just kind of bad, like stilted writing. It's just kind of weird. Like I know what they're going for. They're going for she lost her child, so God kept her alive for this moment. But when the ending happens, guys, we'll talk about the ending, but I think the ending that's how I feel about the ending. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
But Evelyn's what do you guys think of Evelyn's character? Parts of me, I like certain parts of it, and then just the way things happen real fast, I'm just it kind of boggles my mind a little bit.
Yeah, I have to say I really like Evelyn's character a lot. I don't appreciate how she was written.
Well, that's the thing, because I think it's a situation where she's introduced too late into the story, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you feel, Derek?
I I I thought her character was a good balance to the story. I mean, it gave him an easy out at the end,
Too
which we'll
easy
get.
Too easy.
I mean, it was
Too
too easy.
easy.
It was very
and too
telegraphed. I will
crappy.
say, very
Yeah.
emotional. It provoked a lot of emotion. It got the
Yeah,
point across.
anger from me from bad writing.
It definitely like I definitely feel I totally know what you mean. Like I think on my first watch I was like really attached to her, and then after that I felt like she was like a bit sacrificial.
1,000,000%.
You know, like yeah, I
Yes.
just I
No,
wanted she was such a warm, like maternal character that like you really just can't help but love. She's so nice and so genuinely sweet. When she was rocking that baby, I'm like, oh, you know,
there was a point in the movie, and again, I had only seen it one other time. I thought they were going to develop some sort of tension between the two characters because she's longing for a connection with a baby because she lost her daughter really young.
right?
And
Yeah,
there are
Well,
moments there where she can soothe the baby and mom can't, and that can build some resentment. I'm
but
glad they didn't.
she didn't lose her daughter when she was young.
She
The
was
she's
daughter
grown.
was the same age as Mia.
Right, she was a grown woman. Yeah,
She was
oh,
Mia's
was she?
age. Yes.
Because there was a car accident. She said she looked
Yes.
behind her.
No, she looked beside her in a
she
passenger
looked,
seat.
she looked next to her and said, like, "Oh my, baby's grown."
Yeah.
Uh,
She actually
anyway,
says, I had a daughter your age.
okay, well, I got some stuff.
And the locket
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The locket and the fact that she talked to her. Yeah, all of those things.
Well,
all of those.
yeah, I did miss the age. I'll grant you that one. But she had.
It
She
happens to
really.
Dr. Disrespect. It happens to all of us. We don't pay attention to the age sometimes.
Who? I have no idea what you're talking.
Lydia knows. I went there.
Oh snap! I had a train going, so you couldn't hear me laughing.
Yeah. Continue, Derek. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Oh, I thought that she was a good addition.
So here's what I think. I don't think I like her as a character. I think the idea of her is fine. I think the actress is really good. I think she
Yes.
delivers really well.
She's
But
amazing.
she is 100% a sacrificial lamb, and comes across as that pretty much from jump, and especially when I don't know. I don't think it's the character itself. It's there's certain direction choices that so it's too ham-fisted the way we see her scar from where she tried to end her life. It's like, and she's like, oh, it's like just it feels very stilted and weird. I just can't can't put my finger on it. I just don't really dig it. And then when we get to when she tells the story, oh, I lost my daughter in the car, and she said I lost my daughter. Then when she tells the next story, oh, it's in a car accident and I begged God to take me, but she left me here, blah blah. You're immediately like, okay, yeah, I know what's gonna happen. 100%, I know what's gonna happen. And my big problem with not necessarily her, but like the whole third act of this movie is the first part is we only get a handful of scares, right? And they're not super strong. Like I said, there's one that's decently effective before they move, where she sees the little girl Annabelle, and then she runs through the door and she's adult Annabelle. I think that's a pretty good, effective scare. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then the fire scene, which, by the way, guys, I've got to talk about this. 100% her husband's fault. Why would you leave a thing of popcorn on there? All it takes is for somebody to bump into that guy. Come on.
Yeah, true.
Put away your popcorn in the 60s.
But also,
don't leave it on the stove.
Also, a pregnant woman is going to smell that burnt popcorn so fast.
Hey, she was into the zone, you know, sewing away or what
All she
have
could
you.
smell was the fumes from that damn sewing machine.
That's it. She was going crazy with the fumes. Give me those fumes. The sewing machine gets a lot of play because there's also a scene where he just walks in and he
Yeah.
hears something and it's a sewing machine. He's like, "Oh, better unplug that." Like,
Yes, and
yeah.
he's like doesn't know how to shut it off.
How does this contraption work? This is only
Yes.
made for female hands. It is the 60s after
Exactly.
all.
Yeah. It's clearly never touched that thing before.
Yes.
But yeah, that sewing machine is like one of the scarier parts of the movie, I think,
When-
because it's like just the sound trigger and it gets her too. Like she's like
Yeah.
carelessly just putting her fingers under there.
So
Like, that would hurt so bad. That's like she got straight up pierced.
one of the things I will say that's positive, I think this movie has great sound design. I really do. I think that it goes hard with the sound design for sure. I was thinking that while I was watching it. I was like, man, some big loud jump scares and such. I was like, okay, I like the sound design of this a lot.
And the records.
Yeah, the record, you could hear the sound of the actual vinyl. So the big set piece in the basement. What do you guys think?
I didn't love it.
I think it almost works. Almost. It's very close to working. What do you think
I
about
agree.
it, Derek?
It worked for me. I thought it was pretty suspenseful. They could have made a better attempt at like a reveal, which they do get to once she gets upstairs. You get to see I think this is the scene where you get to see the Annabelle doll get picked up and the demon behind it. Am I right?
Yeah. That is correct.
Yeah, pretty suspenseful. I was at. I don't want to be too cliche because I wasn't at the edge of my seat, but it worked for me.
Yeah, it almost works for me. It didn't quite land for me. I think the reason it doesn't land is because I think the beginning of it works. I think the part where she's in the elevator really works. I like that the elevator keeps opening and shutting, and every time it opens again, it's at the same spot. I really love all of that. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's suspenseful. That's good. And the fact that she has to run through it. Also, I'm like, yeah, I'm actually in for this. But then the end of it gets bad to me. When she goes up the stairs, it loses all tension for me, and it's the way it's shot. The flashing light, it just looks cheap. Maybe?
Do you know what it looks like?
What?
It looks like
house?
one of those. Well, it looks like one of those reenactments from like My Paranormal,
yes!
Story or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Cheap. It just doesn't look good, right? It just
like I've seen that show have scarier reenactments than that scene.
Yeah, it feels like you are 100% right. It feels like if you're watching A Haunting and they show they're like, this family did out with this, and it shows like her run. It's because the frame rate changes to be really weird, I feel like. And when she's going up the stairs, it just doesn't work. I like the idea of her looking over and seeing the hand, but they do it like 4 times for some reason. They just keep... It's like they must have watched fucking Creature from the Black Lagoon and were like, you know that scene where they show the hand twice? Let's double it. We're going to show it 4 times.
Yes. Well, and then they show the face, and it's like...
The face sucks. The face is not the best.
Looks a bit like a mask. But I mean, that's,
Looks goofy. It looks kind of goofy, but it's not the best.
I think it looks good. They just didn't do it right.
Yeah. It
wasn't very scary.
Right. And I like what they were going with, but I do like the shot of the demon stand behind a floating Annabelle doll. I do think that's good.
That was good. Yes.
That's really cool. But so that scene almost works. Like I said, for me, it almost works. It works for Derek, and it almost works for you and I.
Yeah, Jake was pretty invested in it too. Like I was kind of like laughing, and he was like closer. He was sitting on the floor, like in front of the TV, and he was like, "Oh man."
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I
could
was
tell
like,
he kept having good reactions to the movie, and I was just like, yeah, sure.
that's kind of how I was when I watched it with Sarah the first time. Cool story, bro.
Yeah.
So I was like, yep, okay. So that's like the biggest set piece, and then after that, like, here's where my problem rises, because the whole thing with the priest and then the the sacrifice thing all happens way too fast, I think. Right? It doesn't build to it. It literally, the one scene, the priest comes and says, "Oh, well," after she sees after she has the mark on her hand and all that stuff, she finds out about the cult. The priest says, "Oh, I think this is, yeah, this is a demon. How do we beat it? Don't know, but I think it won't stop. It wants a soul, and it won't stop till it gets one. Well, how do we stop it? Don't know, but you have to offer your soul. It can't just take any soul." And immediately you're like, "Oh, she's going to try to sacrifice herself for her baby." Got it. As soon as he says it, we know. Okay. Then he leaves and just gets thrown out of his church. Which, what? All right, whatever.
You know what that reminded me of?
What?
Oh, it just came to me. I was like, what is this reminding me of? It was so cheesy. And then it made me think, and we haven't covered this movie yet, but it reminded me of La Llorona.
Oh, yeah.
You know the scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah, I do.
carry on.
But yeah, what do you guys think of that bit with the priest?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that no good is going to come from him taking that doll.
Obviously, yeah, but that's you just go with that. That's part of the cliche. Yeah, I'm fine with riding with that.
Like, Jake was like, why wouldn't he just offer to, like, take the baby to the church?
That does make more sense.
I think the doll would make more sense than the baby, to try to separate them. I kept thinking, man, he's going to get into a car accident, because he kept focusing, like taking his eyes off the road and focusing on the radio. And I do like the scene where he gets to the church and he reaches in and he grabs the doll, and then they like kind of pan back a little bit, and it reveals the soul that is trapped in the doll that's connected to the demon, Annabelle.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think this, but maybe God's the one who smited him out of the church. Don't bring that demon in here. I'm kidding. Obviously, it's the demon who can't go into the and is like,
pushes him out, pulls him out, or what have you. And then that shot is another weird one.
Shot.
It's a weird shot, but what's weirder is the shot afterwards when we see the hand grab, when Annabelle grabs the doll. Because it like switches frame rates again. It's like, and I was like, why the heck did it do that? I don't know. Whatever. Just going with it at this point. I'm like, it's got like 15 minutes left. Let's just see what happens.
Right.
But guys, this third act. What do you guys think of it? Because we get the classic. He tries to make a phone call to her, and the demons mess with the phone lines. Which, by the way, I wonder if demons can mess with cell phone signals. Maybe that's why demon attacks don't happen often now, because we can communicate with each other. They can only fuck with landlines. So, but we get that classic scene. He's like, "I'm on the way," and then the priest knocks on the door. But we know it's not the priest because the priest is in the hospital. Immediately. Like, luckily, there was people at that church that immediately got him to the hospital, so that way the husband can find him and he can wake up from his coma with the husband and tell him to run. Luckily, all of that happened.
Yeah.
You could call it divine intervention, I would imagine, instead of convenience plotting. But you could call it divine intervention. But, when he comes to the door and he's standing, what do you guys like that scare when he says "May God have mercy on your soul"?
I don't love it, but I think he looked pretty scary.
You know
I
what
could
would
see
have
how
been
that would
perfect?
scare someone.
Not that we're here to edit the movie, but what would have probably worked better is if he knocked on the door and she answers the door, even if he's turned around and she's like, "Oh, hey, father," and she goes to like put her hand on his shoulder. Then the phone rings and she goes and picks it up, and like we're seeing her from here and just see the like from the back, and the priest like walks in, and then he tells her he was in an accident. And he's like, that would have been way better than what played
Yeah,
out, in my opinion.
yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
you could even also argue that we maybe shouldn't have even seen the 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 doll being grabbed by Annabelle or him being thrown from the church, right? Because then you could still
Right.
have like
Yeah.
kind of a
Yeah, the hey, I'm not too hard on the getting thrown at the church thing, but I do think it probably would have worked better if the doll just appeared and you didn't see Annabelle pick
well,
her up for
yes,
sure.
and I think it would have, but then I think maybe the audience would get confused with like, oh, is it inanimate? Is it alive instead of being an inanimate object, which it is.
Hmm.
I get all that, but what do you guys think of the actual third act of this? Because it's in terms of these like Conjuring movies, even the sequels to the Conjuring, even like Annabelle Come Home or Annabelle Comes Home, or the Annabelle Origins, or the Nun. This third act is the weakest, right? Like as far as scares and big battle stuff, like it just kind of just ends.
I
Like
don't know because
we get a
I think
cool scene
yeah,
with the doll that she beats it up, and then we get tricked to thinking it's the baby.
that's pretty rough.
That's a cool
Yeah.
bit. It's
It's
a cool
thank
bit.
God it's a trick
Well,
though, you
like,
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that is very stressful. But yeah, like you said, it didn't even really happen. So
yeah. There's just no like big, So like, and I think it comes down to the writing and execution, because think about there's kind of a similar bit in Conjuring 2, right? Where we know that Ed is in danger, right? We know that um, Lorraine has to get to Ed towards the end, because Ed is trying to save the girl who's going to be pushed basically off onto the tree. It's a very similar setup, right? Um,
out the window.
Out the window, right? Just like she's going to jump out the window. But I think it's James Wan elevates that same situation because he's James Wan. So the tension is there. Whereas this one, it kind of is a little. I think this is kind of the rough draft of that same idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Because in that one, there's a win,
Yeah.
and in this one, there's not necessarily a win.
Well, there's kind of a win, but here's what's weird about it. Here's what is kind of confusing. So Evelyn says, you know what? Hey, uh, after they try to talk Mia down from the ledge. Come on, get down. He grabs her, pulls her down. No, you can't do it. She's like, I want my baby. Evelyn decides she's going to sacrifice herself, which uh, is kind of fucked up. That the Catholic religion, especially, that's built around your if you end your own life, it's a sin. To say, oh no, this is the only way. But they get around it by saying, oh well, you lay down your life for your friend. That's what Jesus said. Like, but she kind of just jumped out of a window, so I guess.
That
I
was
mean,
that seemed like a binding contract, didn't it?
yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. It's definitely a binding contract, because why would the demon just let the baby go? Why does it have to follow the rule? Like this, like no, you take me instead, and jumps off, and then it's like, okay,
Yeah, it's like you're not the
because
one that it wanted.
if I'm not mistaken, he threw the doll out, and the doll came back because it wanted her soul. So why
Yeah.
would it just stop?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the that's the thing about demons, isn't it?
I mean, as evil as they are, they won't break a contract. So
Yeah.
they're like, well, hey, we had a deal. We had it. It's binding. It's in there. Nothing I can do about
Like
it.
now I gotta go somewhere else.
They're like, hey, look, I may be evil, but I'm not evil enough that I'm not going to pay contractors. Okay, leave that for the really evil people.
Yeah.
You know, adjudicated rapists or something. Um, what do you guys think of this third act, Derek? What do you think?
It's a bit telegraphed for sure. I did find it quite emotional, especially at the end. Like I shed a couple of tears. I'm not gonna lie when she sacrificed herself. Um, you know, like she said, that's what she was there for. That's what we said too. But yeah, it's a
That
great
is what we said.
Catholic Church. It is and you nailed it. She technically, I guess, I don't know if she committed suicide because I liken it to the scene from Constantine where he's like the sacrifice. I mean, she sacrificed herself for her friend and a baby. But yeah,
All right, yeah, I like that. I forgot about that scene in Constantine.
Yeah, but also, I mean, Constantine gamed the system. I mean, that's the deal. He gamed the system
mm-hmm.
so he could go up to heaven. But
Yeah, I guess that's probably what they were trying to do here.
oh, that's 100% what. That's why they had that weird, like I said, that awkward 80-yard line where he's like, Jesus laid down. No, you can't do anything greater than laying down your life for your friend. That whole thing.
Dang, that's tough.
I still, I mean, I don't like the ending at all. I don't think it's very scary, and I felt no emotions during this movie except, yep, they're making it. There's a couple of cool scares here, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
As far as investing in the characters, like I like her a lot. I think she's good in the movie. Mia, um, Annabelle Wallace. I think she's great. And John's okay. He's just kind of like a stick in the mud. You know, tries his best. I will say there's one thing that I do like this movie does, which is they don't have him uh like
Not
question her.
Yeah.
Correct. I do like that aspect. We don't get that whole, what are you talking about? Which is a realistic, 100% a realistic reaction. If Sarah started telling me that she was seeing demons, I'd be like, gotta go to the fucking doctor. Gotta go to the psychiatrist. Something's wrong. But if she started telling me that she's seeing demons and I see other signs like the house catching fire, things moving around by themselves, then I'd be like, okay. Also, there's the little kids that draw the pictures.
Yeah, what was that about?
That's all they do.
What do you think they really drew that?
Yes.
Because I was like, there's no way those kids drew that. Why would they draw that?
Maybe he was the demon, but what were those kids even like?
I think it was the demon trying to scare her.
Maybe, but the kids were they ghosts? Were they really there?
Well, Annabelle has like the crayon thing though. Like she loves crayons.
It's not a she. It's a demon. I think
Annabelle was a girl. The doll's girl. The girl demon. She loves crayons.
Well, it's actually neither because remember, it's never lived in the flesh. Demons haven't.
Right. Yeah. Okay. It.
And he says you can't kill what was never created. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the ending because I just think it's kind of like it's just not flashy enough for a Conjuring movies in the spin-off should have like a more flashy ending because that's what these are, popcorn kind of horror movies, right? And with a little bit of like scares and some edge. There's a little bit of edge when we get the baby smashing, which would have been devastating.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I of course I
too devastating.
I wouldn't want them to smash a baby for and kill that baby, but I think they could have played it just a little bit longer, just to fuck with us more. Um, but they're like, no, no, hey, before you turn us off, we're just kidding. Don't turn us off. Which is respectable. Um, but the very end, we get to see Lynn Shay, guys. She has a little cameo. She's the mother that is buying the. Tell as soon as I heard her voice, I was like, oh, it's Lynn Shay.
The voice matched, and when we cut to the actress, that wasn't her, was it? Was she in makeup or something? It was. I heard the voice, and it sounded like her voice. I thought it was going to be her.
I was wondering about that too, because I
Yeah,
definitely recognize her voice.
Yeah, it's Lynn Shay's voice for sure.
I was like, that must be her sister or something. Because you know how like you answer the phone and it's like you think it's the person's sibling or something, you know, like siblings sound similar on the phone.
Yeah.
That was my thought process on that.
My biggest beef with this movie. My biggest beef with this movie is they throw the doll out, and then when they move, the last box that they unpack, there's the doll, and
Right.
the husband is like, "Give me the doll, throw it out," and she suddenly changes her mind, and is like, "Oh no, we can keep it," and all this stuff. No way, man. No way. I would have, especially since, which she probably would have thought it was a haunting anyway, but whenever the fire happened, she gets grabbed and drugged back into, like, towards
Yes.
the kitchen. I'd have been like, fuck that. Nothing about that room. I would have sold every one of those goddamn dolls.
Yeah,
thrown them
there's
out.
no way.
I wouldn't have kept any of them.
Yeah. Did you guys notice like the blood stains in her hair and stuff?
No. What about it?
Like, cause like the doll was like in the girl's arms when she was like dying and she was getting like blood on her. And like if you look, yeah, you can see like that her like blonde hair is like got like red, like stained streaks in it. Like
That's
there's
what I'm
blood
talking
still
about.
on it.
Yeah.
There's no way you would keep that doll. No way.
No. No, 100% not. And the doll is like we talked about at the beginning, is hideous and creepy anyway, without the fact that a weird cult member broke into your house, stabbed you, almost made you lose your baby, made you go into an early fucking pregnancy, and
you're just like, hey, free doll. Anybody want one?
It's like, no. And so I like how they tie it in with the mother grabbing the, you know, it's interesting. I mean, that's how they tie it in. It's like, oh, so literally she goes from this case to the doll just ends up in a thrift shop, just like, I'm waiting for the next person.
It was like 6 months.
Yeah, but just like, that's what I'm saying. Just it's just been sitting in a thrift shop. Sure. Just chilling. Just chilling. Not playing any demon pranks. Waiting to be picked up by somebody.
Yeah. Dude, I have been preparing for Halloween. I'm like getting ready for like some spooky Halloween stuff. And I've been bringing so many creepy dolls into my house. I brought home a clown doll. It's so scary. It's so scary.
Lydia, you're a one of a kind.
I'm just saying, like, wish me luck. You know, have prayers out there for me because I don't know. You know, they're not. I'm not cleansing them, so they're.
About my sister and what I did to her, right, with the doll.
No, did you? I don't know.
I'll save it for the story time.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
So, yeah, there's definitely some things that happen. Annabelle origin kind of retcons a lot of this, which is interesting. It's like they just were like, you know, this the like, you know, it's kind of a prequel, and then they kind of tie it into this. And we'll get to that one eventually too. But that's Annabelle. What do you guys think? How are we feeling about Annabelle?
I kind of want Derek to go first because he seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, he's definitely more
you shed a
positive of all of us.
tear, Derek?
Yeah, at the end. Like that was a very touching scene. Um, no, I did like this movie. I now own it because I couldn't find it any place
I own
to
it now too. Yeah,
watch it for free. So it was either
You
rent it
guys
for
don't have Hulu?
4.99 or buy it for 4.99, and I or
yeah, it just
whatever.
wasn't on Hulu when we looked.
I watched it on Hulu.
Couldn't find
I
it.
tried.
I did
I
too.
watched it on Hulu for free, for sure.
When'd you watch it?
Just right before we got on.
Interesting. Yeah, I couldn't find it when I searched Hulu.
Yeah, it said that it was streaming there, but when I searched for it, I couldn't find it anyway.
Yep, me neither.
Um,
That's weird.
yeah, there
It
were a
is.
lot of things in this movie that worked for me. It kept my attention. I really liked the husband and wife. They felt like the actors. It felt very authentic. Like I feel like they had pretty good chemistry. Now, were they the best actors and actresses that ever lived? No, but I felt like their chemistry came across pretty well. um, it was shorter than last week's movie, so like it was an hour and 34 minutes or something like that. So
Yeah.
that played with it. The third act maybe did get rushed just a little bit for sure. They could have played that out, and we talked about an alternative way they could have shot a scene to make it even a little bit better. But I don't know. I had fun watching this movie. Now, just to kind of recap the other two movies that we in the Conjuring series that we've watched, we gave them 9.5s and 10s.
Yeah.
So this movie does not live up to those expectations, but I had a lot of fun. I gave this movie a 7.5.
All right, Lydia, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. As many problems as we can pick with this movie, I felt I was happy to watch it, and I was like, it was an enjoyable movie. I almost like since I just watched it, it kind of felt like it was like almost becoming a comfort movie where I was like, I could just put this on anytime and be like totally content with that. Um, so yeah, I think I'll give it. I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Yeah, that's more in the area I'm living is in the sixes. Uh, or below. I don't hate this movie, but as far as keeping my attention, I don't. It really didn't all that well, and I tried to. I actually had to watch it twice because the first time I wasn't feeling it. I was like, man, I'm kind of distracted. It deserves. I need to actually sit down and watch it. So I did. Um, and I don't know. I just think maybe it's comparing it to the movies that it follows and the movies that follow it. Because I think that it's no secret Annabelle Origins is just a way better movie when we get to it, and I find Annabelle comes home to be way more fun. There's just wasn't. I don't know. I don't hate the movie. I think it's fine, but I didn't find it very scary. The only scenes that I thought were effective were the break-in scene. As far as for me for scares, the break-in scene. I think the basement scene is almost there. There's a couple of really cool parts, and then that's kind of it for me. The performances are solid all the way around. We have F. Murray Abraham as the freaking father. What the hell's his name in this? Father, may I? Yes, you may. What is it? It's Father Perez. I'm sorry. It's you have Tony Amendola as Father Perez here. Then you have that's kind of it. There's a really small cast. There's only really 4 deaths, and they all take place to be 5, 4 at the beginning, and then the Evelyn sacrificing herself. So meh. It's mid for me, and mid's what 5. So I'm gonna give it a 5.5. Yeah. almost a 6.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've watched this like 3 or 4 times, and when we left the theater, I was like, it was okay. And then the last couple times I've watched it, it's fine. It's
Mhm.
okay. And then this time I was more like, it's fine. I'm kind of seeing what a lot of the critiques of the movie were. Like I didn't agree with them at first. I was like, it's a fun horror movie. And then this watch through, I was like, I kind of see what you mean. I kind of get it. I don't know. I kind of get it. So yeah. All right, guys. Who would Tom Atkins play in this thing? It's time to Atkinize this movie.
Guess it'd have to be the dad.
Yeah, for sure.
Derek, you're muted.
You went several episodes without that.
Long time. So Jamie must have heard what saw what I said. It'd either be the father or the priest.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I think I'm making the
priest.
I'm making the father for sure. He's a bigger part, you know.
Yeah.
He's the bigger part. You know, he gets laid. So yeah, it's definitely Tom Atkins. All right. Whose turn is it to pick this week?
Derek's turn.
Mine.
All right, Derek.
What did we do last week?
Last week, no. Last week we did The Gate.
Nope.
Did we?
We did The Gate 2 weeks ago. We did The Gate, the first Omen.
Oh, the Omen.
We did the first Omen last week. That's right.
Okay.
Yes. So it's Derek's turn.
Okay. Derek, what you got?
Guys, we are in the thralls of summer. So I feel like there's only one thing that we can do. And I always forget what I did last summer.
Oh my gosh.
But we're going to watch I Know What You Did Last Summer.
All right.
Little word salad.
Very nice. Very nicely done.
Nice. We're going to do.
Looks like a lot of them are subscription. Hulu, so it should be on Hulu.
Well, so was the last one, supposedly. You and I couldn't find it.
It was. I watched it there.
That's so weird.
Fubo TV, Sling TV, YouTube TV, YouTube, you can buy it. Which is probably
so
all of it.
I have this one on VHS.
VHS.
You know what?
You have a VHS here.
I do.
I used to have this on VHS. Had this in its god awful sequel, which we'll talk about eventually, on VHS, and the first two, all 3 Screams on VHS back in the day. All right, that's gonna be a fun one. I haven't actually watched that. I think during the pandemic, I watched it. We did last summer because it was on like Netflix or something. And I was like, I need something to make me feel better. Let's watch these teens get murdered.
Perfect.
Derek, you said you had a story for us?
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I've said this before, but Lydia said no, so I'm going to tell it again. So, it was not a Chucky doll, but it was a doll that would just look ugly.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah, the My Buddy.
One night, I don't know. I forget what time of year it was. Anyway, me and my sister, we were at home. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to, let's see if this works. So I go out the back door with the doll, and I run around the house, and I go to the front porch, and I put it like right in front of the door, and I knock real hard, and then I run all the way to the back. And I don't know where my sister, she must have been upstairs, but I get back into the house right as she is opening the door, and she like flips out. And to this day, she still has like issues with dolls. And it wasn't too long ago I was talking to her about it, and she was like, that's probably like she has an issue with like dolls. She doesn't like them. She's like, that is probably the reason why I don't like dolls. That really got me when we were younger. I'm like, oh, well, I'm sorry.
Hey, you know what? That's a good trick to play. I remember we used to have a My
That's
Buddy
good one.
doll. We used to have My Buddy dolls when I was a kid, and Zachary had one, and it was used to sit in his closet, and every once in a while you'd see that thing and be like, ugh. Um, I don't know why he had it. Like my mom just fucking bought it for him one day. I guess I don't know. He had a fucking My Buddy doll chilling there. Another weird. I remember I went to stay the night at my buddy's house for just it was my cousin. We went to stay the night, and we were like, I don't know how old I was, 8, between 8 and 10, and I remember he had like these monster toys, like they were like monsters. They're stuffed animal monsters. You remember those? Like fuzzy stuffed animal monsters. You remember
I
those,
don't
Derek?
remember. Yep.
He had those, so we were playing with those, but he was like, "Yeah, I have to put these away at night because my mom says that they could be possessed by demons." I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like that's not a thing, you know.
I get that all
Uh,
the time.
and I was like, okay, whatever. So we go to bed, and I'm laying there, and I I see that doll. It's like sitting over the monster is,
You plant the
and
seed.
yeah, I'm just like, that's not a real thing. But I'm also like, but what if it was? And I remember the lights are out, and he has like the window open. And it's like poltergeist style. You can see the silhouette of the tree.
Yes.
And I remember I'm laying on the floor, and I remember just being like, I want to go home. Like I remember pulling the blanket over myself and being like, that fucking doll's over there. I think I threw a pillow at it, knocked it down, poltergeist style, and I'm just like,
I love
why?
it.
Why am I
I
here?
love it.
Another one I remember is Joey tells a story about how our cousin Joey tells a story about how her mom he, his mom threw away troll dolls because they were possessed by the devil,
Oh.
supposedly.
That makes sense.
He said that like supposedly like Travis had these his brother Travis had these trolls. He'd sleep with them under his pillow, or Joey slept with them under his pillow, and
Why?
because they love the little trolls. I don't know, but apparently they were in bed, and the parents were in bed one night, and they heard footsteps in the hall, and they thought it was the boys, and they opened the door, and these trolls are in the middle, are like in the hallway, and they're like, "Oh, they're possessed by the devil." And I'm like, probably you guys were walking the hallway with the trolls, and then
Yeah.
you were heard, so you fucking hid, and your parents just jumped to the conclusion of must be the fucking demon trolls.
Must be the devil.
What are you talking about?
That's yeah. That's horrible. You want to talk about a toy that's possessed by the devil? Furbies must not have come out quite yet.
No, they did not.
Because those things would just fucking come to life.
They would legit come to life. Yeah, all of those things. It's so funny that my grandparents and my grandparent. I think my grandma once threw away like a an Elmo doll or Grover doll, some kind of doll that she thought was possessed, and she supposedly threw it in the trash, and that like Annabelle style, and then it was back in the house, and she's like, "Oh, how'd this get back in?" So they went and burnt it.
Ah,
I mean, that's just some straight up superstition, wild shit.
yeah.
That's like some
Yep.
you need to talk to
I
somebody.
am getting a little bit paranoid. I am getting a little bit paranoid now.
Derek, Derek, did you just see Annabelle move?
Nope, she's out of frame. I can't see her.
Oh, it just moved, Lydia. I'm just kidding, it didn't. But freaked you out, didn't it?
No, she's a sweetheart. Look at her.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, Derek.
Hola, ¿cómo
Those
estás?
those were like, think about, those were kids' toys back in the day. And now they have like fucking the most legit toys ever. I mean, even from when we were kids to now, like there's just, I can't wait to play with some of Connor's toys is what I'm saying.
And this
As he
thing
gets
has a
older.
really, honestly, this thing has a really great feel to it. Like, I would totally be like, for cuddling, you know, like this thing
Yeah.
is super sweet. I see why they were so popular now. I've never had, I don't think I've ever had one. Maybe I did when I was little, but not like, this is like, I think a vintage one. So I found her at Goodwill for
I love my mom.
$2.99.
What'd you
But
say, Derek?
I said I love my mom to death, but man, she has got a knack for buying the absolute most annoying toys that's ever existed on this planet. Like I have literally thrown at least 3 of them away because the kids will play with them. I'm like, oh my god. Like she'll
Like
buy this
repetitive
little
noises.
robot. I'm sure I don't know where she gets these damn things. But she'll buy these little robots and it'll just spin in a circle, go and like with lights and shit like that. And I'm like, I can't handle it, man.
What's the noise it makes? That is the fucking wildest noise I've ever heard.
It's ridiculous.
It sounded like a fucking Bollywood movie.
It's more. I'm sure that these are like. It's pretty bad.
Oh my god. All right, guys, that'll do it. So next week we're watching I Know What You Did Last Summer. We are finishing the edit as we speak. It's pretty much done. So by the time this comes out, you'll probably be seeing it. We just have to do color, and that's it. Color and get the score finished, and the score is pretty much finished. So color this guy, and we'll be seeing it. You guys will be seeing it very soon, sending it right to your eyeballs. So we can work on getting the rest of the money to make this feature. So you can follow us online at HiLaProductions.com. You can follow us on Facebook at HiLa Productions. Follow us each on Twitter. You can follow Derek at DDoglyMaster, Lydia at Lydia Spooky, and me at Racket. Be sure to comment down below on your thoughts on Annabelle. Are you more in Derek's camp, or are you more in mine and Lydia's camp? You know, where are you? Where do you fit in this one? Let us know down below. So next week, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Hulu. Until then, for Derek Lemaster and Lydia Judy, I'm Jamie Hiles. Remember, if you're going to scream bloody movies.